Well, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we got a brand new resident heading over to the Galaxy of Heroes holotables, and that is going to be this Jawa junk trader slash scavenger. We got a big post today in regards to a very controversial topic that we've been having lately in the community, and that is in regards to relics. And this is going to be a really big post. And as I told you originally, when I first heard about relics, I was just kind of in the middle. I was like, you know what, let's just wait until we see some more information before I give a final opinion. I usually try to find something that gets me really excited when I look at these posts. I can't quite say there's nothing really that excites me out of this post here, because it seems like it's going to be another gearing micromanaging thing. And I'm just gonna rush down real quick for a second. Seeing that they have the golden eyeballs in there, some raid gear, and I also see Kyrotechs down here that are going to be probably used to compose some of these pieces needed for these relics, has me concerned, because we're already on a gear grind, and it makes it feel like, from reading this post, that yes, we're going to be using gear that's in large quantities right now, but there could be a possibility that what's a large quantity now might become a huge demand later on, because we've already exhausted a lot of this stocked up gear. And if we have to use Kyrotechs not just for gear 13 to get there, but also to further these relics at once you're at gear 13, not too sure. So right now I started at the middle, and now I'm kind of a bit more concerned after reading this post. Let's read it together. Maybe there's more good than bad out of this, but right now it's just hard to see what can get me excited right now. So there was actually two posts. I was gonna make a video on this right here, but this post is kind of worse than reading some of those old law school cases I had to do at school at one point. The archetype accentuates the confluence of a character's primary stat and role. Very confusing post. I guess I want to read this first, because relics, one of the important things about relics is that they're going to be amplifying key stats of a character, and they're also trying to amplify the role a character is supposed to have. For example, you have your attacker, tank, healer, and support, but also they might have a special stat about them: strength, agility, and tactics. And each of these traits right here are corresponding to particular attributes of a character. Let me show you an example real quick. So over here we have Anakin Skywalker. I'm assuming because he's an attacker, he's probably going to have something that amplifies his damage output. So right here, yes, he's going to have mostly attributes pertaining to strength, because it increases his physical damage, his health, as well as his armor. So Anakin is most likely going to be an attacker with strength attributes. Relics are going to further amplify what a character's goal is in the game. So this relic, I'm guessing for Anakin, it's going to amplify his strength and attacker-based attributes. That's basically what this post is trying to say. It is a very confusing post indeed, but I tried to give you the main summary right there, so that way you can take that understanding of what the purpose of relics is. And now we can look and read into this a bit more, because this talks about the process of acquiring these pieces to amplify these relics once you're at gear 13. I gotta say, firstly, I'm kind of surprised they're throwing this. It's a gear grind. It's gonna be a gear grind. There's no other way around it. You can think of this as gear 13 plus, maybe gear 14. Maybe some people can even argue this is kind of like a red star system that like Marvel Strike Force does, or something along that lines, but it's framed a bit differently. It would have been nice to get more content, like actual content, not just a reskin territory battles, maybe a new raid of some sort, before they added another gear grind for us to go through, because gear 13 has only been out for 2 months, maybe 3 months at most. So I think that's part of the reason why I'm not too excited. But let's read this. Let's hold reservations. They have more posts coming out, but right now I can't get too excited to help you guys get excited right now. But let's read and understand what the system is, because it's going to be very important, kind of like how mod slicing was when it was introduced a year ago or so. So once you reach gear 13, as we talked about before, you're going to come to a screen that looks kind of different, and you're going to start seeing these relics show up at the bottom. And these relics are going to start off at level 0. But with this relic amplifier system, you're going to be able to upgrade this piece that you're going to have from level 1 to level 7 at launch. And that makes me, again, concerned, because that at launch means it's probably going to get pushed down the road. So maybe a level 8, level 9, level 10. It seems like it's an indirect way of replacing the gearing system, because one of the downsides of gearing is that it's a very generic process where you're just throwing random pieces of gear on certain characters, and excluding the gear 12 finisher, there really isn't anything tailored to a specific character. So this seems to be a reskin of an advanced gearing process, where it's meant to amplify what the key components and stats and attributes of a character is going to be. So in that regard, it's probably better than the gearing system. Perhaps, I don't quite know. It's making a character better for what their purpose is in the game, basically. Each of these upgrades you're going to perform to your relics, it's going to give you a permanent power boost, similar to how star upgrades are, except that the stats impacted, again, kind of like I said, are a sharper way of adding stronger archetype identities to characters. And relative to Star's growth, you'll be able to more directly see all the ways your character will grow with each successive update. So right here, you do get a lot of information. So when you're performing these upgrades, you can see exactly what this is doing and how it's amplifying the power and the key stats and the archetype that the character is trying to shoot for. For example, to give us this Count Dooku example, and if we hop over to the game, you'll see that Count Dooku's core stat that he really focuses on is agility. He's an attacker character like Anakin Skywalker, but his stats are a bit more different. Anakin is more towards an attacker strength type of archetype, whereas Count Dooku, he's an attacker, but he's an agility attacker, which is more focused on the physical critical rating, physical critical damage, as well as armor. So when we look over to what this relic is going to do for Count Dooku, you can see there's definitely more of a focus on Count Dooku's agility. We even see this agility attacker mastery thing right here. And down here, I'm guessing these are going to be the components that the scavenger is going to help you acquire. And as you see, at level 2, doesn't seem all that bad to try to get all this stuff together. But as you see, when you get to level 6, we have this Zeb relic over here. It gets way more involved. A lot of stuff needed to compose whatever the next upgrade is for the relic for Zeb. And they're going to say this as well in this post as we keep reading. The first few stages of a relic, they're going to be pretty easy to upgrade, but as you get higher, you're going to need more demanding pieces to get to these higher relic upgrades. So to help us unlock and upgrade these relic amplifiers, we have this Jawa this Jawa scavenger right here. And I will say this is the highlight of the post. It's nice seeing this little guy do some work in the background. Although we didn't need him. Who hired this guy? We didn't need this guy making the grind more difficult for us. But this guy is going to be important for breaking down unused gear into scraps. And we see, I think, some examples of what gear they're going to be needing, and then combining that scrap with signal data to amplify your characters and unlock new power. And I'm guessing that's what we see here. This is probably your scrap, I'm guessing, right here, and this is going to be your signal data. You kind of see what looks to be like a signal, basically like a cellular signal right there. And then you click on amplify, and it could get kind of expensive. 500,000 to get for level 6 or going into level 7, I'm guessing. That's an expensive upgrade, that's for sure. That's basically almost as if you're leveling up someone's star count. The good news is this signal data is dropped from Cantina battle nodes. So that's the good thing. So while you're farming things like, I don't know, Kylo Ren Unmasked, or perhaps you're farming the Genos in Brood Alpha, you're going to be getting this stuff as if you're getting your currency for particular shipments or just credits. That's the good thing. It looks like signal data should be the easier material to farm, at least right now. And as I say here, the number you need will scale as you go up in levels, but the intent for the first few relic amplifier upgrades is that it can be farmed relatively easy and consistently. So this stuff, the signal data, is stuff that everyone's going to be starting off on the same playing field. No one's going to have a single piece of this until the update drops. But then we have the scrap material, and this is the part we got to make sure we keep our eyes focused on, because this requires gear to compose scrap. You're basically breaking down gear to turn it into scrap material. So there are 6 different pieces of scrap output. I think we kind of see that right here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when you're at like this level 6 part, you're going to be needing, it looks like, every single type of these scrap pieces in order to start amplifying the relic even further. It's created from existing gear, and here's the problem that's going to get some people a bit weary. Virtually every piece of gear in the game, full salvage, prototype, and component, is going to be an input for scavenger materials, and some crafted gear 12 plus and finisher components are not yet in the scavenger. Every piece of gear corresponds to a specific type of new material. In general, the higher the gear, the higher level piece it corresponds to. Now, looking at this, it makes me a bit worried, because although we're not going to be needing crafted gear 12 plus pieces or finisher components, I believe from the looks of it, Kyrotech will be needed to form this stuff, and Kyrotech is such a grind right now to already get the gear 13, or it's going to be very expensive because you're looking at about $20 per full Kyrotech pieces if you want to get the gear 13 a lot faster. So seeing the Kyrotech in there makes me a bit nervous. Golden eyeballs, I sometimes find myself short of those when I'm gearing up characters from like gear 11 to gear 12, unless they find a way to really open up the nozzles on giving us a lot more gear, which they did kind of. I'll show you an update that just got pushed out today. We're going to be facing another gear grind. It's another gear grind. That's what this is at the end of the day. So moving on further, every piece of scrap can be constructed from a specified range of different pieces of gear. We have these 6 pieces of scrap, and each of them requires different types of gear to create those pieces. You can choose which piece to funnel into the creation of scrap depending on your inventory and your needs. If you're worried about accidentally adding a valuable piece of gear that you want to save for a different character at pre-relic gear tiers, you can use a lock feature. So I think we have a lock feature by the golden eyeballs. They're super valuable. You don't want to be scrapping those away, so you can lock it and not bother with using it. I'd put probably a lock on that Kyrotech because right now I don't feel comfortable letting those be scrap pieces at the moment. So we don't have the details as to what gear will be needed for what scrap. They said there's going to be a different post talking about the gear list for each scrap piece and other details in future posts. But at a high level, for most longtime players, relics 1 through 3 upgrade requirements are going to be very light, and you'll probably knock those out very quickly, whereas relic levels 4 through 7 are going to be more challenging and require higher tier gear. So that's probably where we start seeing those Kyrotechs, the golden eyeballs, and whatnot. And yeah, man, we just gotta, if that's going to be the case, we need to really open up the faucet to at least kind of keep us up, because we already need this stuff to get the gear 11, to get the gear 12, to get the gear 13. Now you need it at gear 13. Maybe in a perfect world where everyone's already at gear 13, this would make sense. But right now, when the crunch is real, that's going to be a problem. We are aware of how challenging and momentous it is to take a character to gear 13, and our intent here is to make sure that hard work of getting to gear 13 is further rewarded. I don't know. I mean, I guess let's look at it from this way. If you're someone that has these gear 13 characters really early, you can get even farther ahead from your opponents or from the other players in the game that aren't quite the gear 13. So that gap between who's at gear 13 and getting through relics and who's still working to gear 13, that's going to be a very wide disparity right there. So we're going to get some more posts down the road. Again, initial thoughts. I guess the cool thing is, if you want to try to make Anakin Skywalker even more deadly, that's kind of an upside. But the main problem right now is seeing that hard pieces of gear are going to be needed, it looks like, to compose these scrap materials. I think that's going to be the main issue right now. And secondly, it's very close to the release of gear 13. It would have been nice to have some breathing space, get the gear 13 a bit, and then you can introduce this, kind of like how they introduced gear 12 plus a little later, and then the gear 12 finisher later. Would have been nice to have more space like that, I think. The one big highlight is I think maybe I prefer this over a gear 14, because this is super tailored towards each and every character, so that way you kind of see a character really come to life and stand out among all the other attackers in the game. So that is definitely the one upside to this, because they were probably bound to either release a gear 14 or this system, and just from looking at it right now, this is definitely a more unique process of gearing up a character than what we had before, going to gears 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And I guess they are starting to make some steps to getting gear a lot easier, and we're starting to see baby changes today with changes to your daily activities completion rewards. They removed some stuff that maybe weren't in the biggest demand, and they also increased the quantity of what you can get from 2 to 5, so more salvage, the better. They added some stuff that we kind of do need. For example, Mark 6 droid collars, always in need of those. I'm always in need of these Mark 4 gel salvages, Mark 6 thermal detonators, always in need of that. And here's the cool thing. They're also adding a guaranteed 3 salvage of either the Mark 7 Kyrotech shock prods or the other one, the computer prototype salvage. So getting 3 pieces of salvage of the Kyrotech, hopefully every single day, or at least often, that is going to be nice, especially if they're going to require Kyrotech down the road for the relics. You're going to need as much of this as possible. And also, there's a potential of getting up to 250 crystals when you complete your activities, and that's about, what, $2? Is this enough for this future mask gear 14 process that's going to be released? Probably not. We still need to get things like the Mace Windu challenge updated, so we get more Mark 5 stun guns, and probably some other ways to get Kyrotech. So right now, I think right now with the current economy that's in the game, I definitely have a lot of concerns at the moment. So like, if you did enjoy the video, comment down below on your thoughts. Let's have a community discussion about this, because this is a very significant update that is coming and important for end game players or people trying to catch up to the end game. And be sure to subscribe so you're not missing a thing. And I'll talk to all the lovely people in the next video. Peace out, everyone.
Party Richter, Party Richter. Down, 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 down. Party Richter, Party Richter. Son of a bitch. Party Richter, Party Richter. Down, down, down.